Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. So to give you an idea why we're here today to talk about creating compelling 2D and 3D deliverables from photos. Having accurate, high-quality data is the starting point to creating end products we can use for demonstrative purposes. Now, these can be used within your company or agency or for courtroom presentations. Now, ideally, we would love for everyone to have their own laser scanner to achieve this goal. However, there are other data capture methods being used along with laser scanning, and we want to showcase just some of the ways you can use FARO Zone software no matter how you're capturing your data. Today, we're going to focus on 4 deliverables we can create from a single orthomosaic drone photo of crash data. We've got a panel of 3 gentlemen that are kind of a big deal in their fields that are going to discuss using a photo to create crash diagrams, animations with camera views, some virtual survey data, and a time distance report. So throughout the presentation, I encourage you to post questions for this panel of experts. Make them earn their keep. We'll answer as many questions live as we can following each segment and at the end of our presentation. The end goal of today's presentation is to do a couple of things. We want to increase your knowledge and your capabilities of the tools that you're using, or maybe might be considering to add to your toolbox. Now, let me introduce your team today that's going to help you accomplish this goal. So as Paul said, my name is Alina Burrows, and I'm your host or moderator for the day. I'm a senior applications engineer and global public safety forensic specialist at FARO Technologies. That's a long title.
It's a big name badge.
It doesn't fit on a business card, Dean. So I came to FARO after a 12-year career as a crime scene investigator and IAI certified senior crime scene analyst. Currently at FARO, I conduct training on the Focus laser scanner and scene software for our public safety customers. And overall, my biggest job is to ensure the needs of our public safety customers are met and well represented throughout FARO products, software, training, and support. So next up, the big game, the big team. Dean Pearson. Dean is an applications engineer and FARO Zone trainer extraordinaire, working hand in hand with our public safety customers all over the world from his base in Kamloops, British Columbia. But this morning, we're fortunate enough that Dean is here with me today at FARO headquarters, where we're broadcasting live, Lake Mary, Florida. Dean grew up in a law enforcement family. His father served in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And fun fact, Dean is so well loved by customers and coworkers alike that he was just voted best personality of the applications engineering team for 2019.
Oh my gosh, Alina, come on, stop.
I gotta make Derek jealous.
Stop.
So in addition to Dean, we've got David Reinhold. David has been an active crash reconstructionist since 1991 and is the owner of Collision Technologies, LLC, which was founded in 1998 to provide sales and training for forensic mapping equipment and CAD software. During his 22-year career with the Maryland State Police, David participated in a National Highway Traffic Safety Administration shared technology program, which introduced 3D laser measuring devices and provided training for crime and crash scene mapping to law enforcement. After retiring from the Maryland State Police in 2009, David has continued to provide crash reconstruction consulting services and training and is accredited through ACTAR. David additionally provides sales and training for FARO products and has been a part of the initial testing of FARO Zone 2D and 3D software, providing developers with feedback to real-world use of our software. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Derek White. He wasn't voted best personality, Dean, but he's a runner-up, solid runner-up. Derek is the current director of software development for public safety here at FARO Technologies. Along with Janice White, Derek founded the CAD Zone software company in 1990 in Beaverton, Oregon, with the goal of designing and supporting diagramming and management software for the public safety industry, which includes crash, crime, fire, and insurance. And anybody that's been in this business knows the CAD Zone quickly earned a reputation for being one of the best application development companies in both the CAD worlds and the public safety industry. CAD Zone was acquired by FARO Technologies in 2014, and since then, Derek and his team have been continuing to develop 2D and 3D diagramming, animation, and analysis software for the public safety industry. So that is our esteemed panel today. We've got a lot of law enforcement and CAD experience. So again, make sure that you ask questions of our panel. So, serious talent today. Without delay, I'm going to turn it over to Dean, and he's going to talk to you about our first two in our list of 4 deliverables, diagrams and animations.
Thanks, Alina. You know, you make such a good point. Do we think everybody should have a FARO laser scanner? The answer is yes. Is that the reality in today's marketplace? Unfortunately, not yet. We know everybody wants one. Not everybody has one yet. So today we decided to make a picture, the star of our show. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, an orthomosaic stitched image of an actual crash scene. Now this photo shows the aftermath of a northbound Mercedes SUV versus an eastbound Ford F-150 pickup. Now there's some nice road evidence here that's going to allow us to create several deliverables. By the end of this webinar, I'm going to show you, in accordance with Derek and David as well, on how to create for those 4 deliverables, which will include a 2D crash diagram, an animation of what happened, a virtual survey with a saved and shareable measurement report, and we're even going to show you how to create a time distance report using a relatively new tool in FARO Zone 3D. Now, all of those deliverables will be created from this one image. Now, make no mistake, we could give you a whole lot more than that, but we've only got an hour for this webinar, so these are 4 things that we thought might be interesting to our customers. So, here's the image. Big image. It's about 750 megabytes. This is an orthomosaic stitched image of the crash scene taken from a drone. And in order to get to work and start creating our deliverables, the first thing I need to do is scale it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a scaled Google map from the FARO Zone interface. Now here is the Google map. As I said, this is scaled. So I'm going to use this image to get a scale distance and then apply it to the orthomosaic image. So let's prove to you that we got some work to do. As you can see, here's our orthomosaic on top of the scale Google map. Obviously, not the correct size. Now this size discrepancy is actually a little easier to see if we place a 2-scale F-150 from the FARO Zone symbol library. As you can see here, it's obviously too big for the scene. So to begin the scaling process, I'm going to isolate a structure that's visible in both of the images. Now in this example, I've settled on this building up here in the left corner. I chose it because it's got well-defined edges that I can reference for those measurements. So I'm going to measure the actual distance between these 2 points here on this building, and then I'm going to take that known distance and apply it to the building in the orthomosaic. So here's the scale tool available from the Properties panel in FARO Zone 3D. And as you can see here, there's a pretty significant distance discrepancy. Let's change that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my known distance, I'm going to put it in the scale distance tool right here, and then I simply apply the scale. And then my image is the correct size. Now you can do all kinds of things after the fact, but first I want to show you that we've got mission accomplished. Look at the size of that F-150 2-scale pickup truck. It's now the exact right size. So now I've got a working template. I can line it up by making images transparent and coordinating them together, moving layers from the front to the back. And there you have it, Alina. That is the setup. It's giving us the information that we're going to use to create our deliverables.
Nice. I learn something new every day.
There you go. All right, so let me bring up our first little video here. Now, in the interest of time, I've created a bunch of videos. Then I'm going to kind of give you the cooking show, you know, here's the recipe, I already put one in the oven type of thing, so that we can show everybody everything that they want to see. So now we're going to create the diagram, the first of 4 deliverables. So you've seen the setup image. Now let's start going to work on it. When I start tracing my 2-scale image, I generally start with major construction like sidewalks, parking lot edges, that kind of stuff. Next, outlines of major buildings, road edges and curbs. You can even see a little walking path down there in the southeast corner. And I kind of finish off with lane lines, intersection lines, that kind of stuff. Now a reminder of how the image looks with that CAD work or that diagramming work done on top of it. Now let's look at this image with all of the great scene information. We've actually got a lot of visual information that we can use here. And the majority of the program today is based on this drone photograph. But we did manage to get our hands on one ground-based reference image. This is really the only ground-based image that we're using from to source our animations and some time distance reports a little bit later on. So I'm going to start my incident work with a replication of the paint left behind by the investigators. You can see here I just simply traced what I saw. Everything's to scale, right? And I add the pylons. Now I'm going to connect the dots and draw in my scuff marks or my skid marks using the tools in FARO Zone. And once I've got that done, then I'm going to go to the 2D vehicle spec database and I'm going to add our correct 2-scale models right on their marks so that we're actually dealing with the marks on the road that some people might call evidence. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do the annotations, scuff marks. I even took the measurement tool and did a center of gravity or CG measurement from impact to rest. But I said we were going to create an animation. So here's how that happens. I now go to the 3D vehicle library. I take the exact same 3D symbol, place it on the 2D vehicle, which we've already shown you is on its marks. And now I'm going to incorporate a tool called Animate from Stationary Points. I simply select the symbols, let the software do the work, and look at this animation that's created from simply one click. As a matter of fact, I showed you that drone image. It gives us enough information that we can actually bring out the momentum vectors for this as well. Now, admitted, we had to make a few assumptions about, drag factors and those types of things. So, it's certainly not a court-ready momentum, but it shows you that you've got lots and lots of visual information from which to work. And speaking of visual information, how detailed do you want to get in your diagram, folks? 3D foliage, maybe ground textures, maybe sidewalk textures. You can add them all. Even snapshots of the buildings from your scaled Google map to really fill things out. And that brings us to this, our first of 4 deliverables, a 2-scale crash diagram. Now, I know every organization does things a little differently. Your annotations might not be in the middle of the street like mine are, but for the most part, this is the kind of deliverable that many of our customers look for. And we got it from that drone photograph. All right, coming up next, we're going to work on creating an animation from custom cameras. So just as a reminder, here's our scene here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach some custom cameras to each of our vehicles in what I call a chase position. I'm going to quickly show you how to do that, and I'm going to start with the F-150 pickup here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the animation tab. I'm going to click on this button to bring a camera out on the scene. And I'll just lay it out here. I click 1 to position the camera, then that little blue ball represents the sight line. Now what I want to do is I want to see what this camera is seeing. So I click on the preview button. I can essentially jump inside the camera to see what it's seeing at any time. So next, I'm going to tie the camera to the truck by associating it with the pickup truck. Drag it behind here a little bit. And now the target is essentially my eyeballs. What am I looking at? Well, I'm going to tie my sight line to the truck as well. So I'm essentially watching myself. Now, I'm going to just fine tune. I'm going to line things up the way that I want to see them in my finished product. I can use these offset tabs over here to raise the viewpoint, whatever the case might be. So camera's tied to the car, or truck rather. My eyeballs are tied to the truck as well. Now with that camera active, when I click on play, this is what I get. A custom view of the animation from the perspective that I defined. Let's do one for the Mercedes here. I'm going to essentially do the same thing. Now I could certainly put this camera in a driver's headrest position, for example. But for the sake of time in this webinar, I'm just going to kind of do the same thing. I'm going to tie the camera to the Mercedes, and then I'm going to put it in a chase position, kind of behind a little bit here. And then I'm going to tie my eyes to the Mercedes as well. Again, essentially watch myself. Then I'm going to elevate the camera. I'm going to go into the camera preview and I'm going to fine tune my position. Maybe back a little bit, maybe to the left a bit, maybe even up a little bit as well. All right, that looks okay. Oh, might need to tilt my eyeballs a bit here too though. Good news, I've got control of that as well. All right, for now, I'm happy with that. So, we got a couple of cameras. What do we do now? Well, we're going to take control of our scene and we're going to make another deliverable. In this case, an animation based on the custom cameras. Well, when you start getting into multiple cameras, you got a lot of information. We've got a tool in FARO Zone that helps you control your cameras. It's called the Camera Manager. Here I can do things like select cameras. I can rename cameras so that I know what I'm working with. First camera, as you remember, was the F-150, so I call it F-150. Second was the Mercedes, so I call it Mercedes. That's how creative I am, folks. And now I need to determine which camera I want to record. So I'll just select one. Let's take the Mercedes. Okay? So I've identified this as the viewpoint or perspective that I want to record. I simply click the record button and then I choose the properties that I want. Frame size, bit rate, do I want to save the frames, what's my output, etc. In this case, I'll do an MP4 and I'll save the frames. Once I make my selections on the quality of video I want, if you look at the bottom of the screen here, you'll see a little timeline. What happens is the sequence goes through the sequence, capturing frame by frame. Now, we don't have enough time to watch all of that happen, but we'll show you at the end of the presentation what those deliverables look like. All right, so I'm actually going to do one quick bonus video here as well. It employs a tool called Total View. I always like showing this because it's such an easy tool to use. I'm going to create a flyover of our animation here by just opening up the Total View tool and capturing 3 perspectives that I want. We'll start here, for example. There, I captured one picture. And I'll just kind of twist around here. Okay, I want the camera to fly through this location as well. I can designate any position that I want. There, second picture captured. I said we'll use 3. Let's use 3. I'll now identify my finishing position here. I'll capture that third picture right about here. That looks good. Now I got my 3 source photos. To create the video, I put them over to the video creation area, create fly-through, choose my speed, and click create fly-through. Done. The animation is now ready to view. Now, I made a little bit of a mistake here. I slowed my animation speed down to half for this playback. I'll just show you what this kind of slow flyover looks like. Then I'll go back to normal speed, and it gives me a chance to show you how much control you've got over your screen as well. So we'll just let that pick up, slide out to rest. Now I want to increase my animation speed, go from half to full speed, and now here's what that total view fly-through looks like. All I had to do, Alina, was pick 3 images, and we created that total view fly-through. So I know I said one video. Sorry, you got a bonus video there as well.
We like bonuses, Dean.
Yeah. What do you think? Pretty easy, right?
I think it's pretty easy, and I like the control that you have. I actually like being able to see the crash in a slower speed before, because it gives you time to kind of grasp what's going on in the situation and know what you need to pay attention to the next time around when you see it at full speed.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
We got some questions.
We do.
We do. We got some good questions.
All
so
right.
First and foremost, Jonathan wants to know if it's okay to use a reference line that they've placed in the scene. So they've been using like a 25-foot or a 50-foot tape, probably, I'm assuming, and it's been working so far. Is that good? Is that good practice?
Well, the good news is, Jonathan, you're perfectly normal, right? We deal with a lot of skeptical police officers, right? It's their names that go on the bottom of the report. So Jonathan and everybody else, my best practice advice is to always, always, always put that reference line down there. Until and unless you're confident and comfortable with the scaling measurement system in the software, for sure you want to back things up.
Yeah.
They always get comfortable, they always get confident, but again, skeptical police officers, they got to prove it to themselves.
And we have another question from Laura that I think is a good point to bring up. Right. Laura wants to know if there's a specific drone that you have to use, or is there a specific equipment that you have to add on to the drone to get these images, or can you just use any drone?
Well, the answer is, or the question is, how long is a piece of string, right? There's so many options that you can have out there. It really boils down to a case of budgets. It really boils down to a case of preference. I know 100 different police agencies using 50 different drones, 50 different camera mounts, and every kind of combination therein. So, you know, I wish I could give you a better specific answer, but this is really something that you're going to have to reference. Find what fits your budget. Find what gives you the results that you're happy with, Jessica.
That's it. Find what works for you.
Yep.
And then lastly, James had a question, and I'm feeling pretty good about myself, Dean, because I can answer this one.
All right, okay.
All right, it's a training question. So James says that this is a really nice overview for people that are already familiar with the FARO Zone product, but what happens if you haven't received any training on the FARO Zone product? So we do have training available, James, and one of the polls that's coming up later on is going to ask you if you want more information on training. Click that link, we can send you that. We have all of our FARO Zone training. We can come to you, we can do it on site, but most all of it is taught by this guy right here. So Dean does all of our online training, so you don't even have to leave your home. You can log on remotely, and it's live instructor led. We call it our virtual classroom.
Yeah. And if I could kind of hitchhike onto that
Please
comment,
do.
we offer lots and lots of advanced training, but to get guys like you started, we offer a thing called the FARO Zone Core class. I call it 0 to 60, right? We start at the beginning. Here's what happens when you open the software. I say we teach you enough to be dangerous, right? How to use the software, get up and running with it. And you've got to find a budget of $0 to take that course. It's absolutely free. Great place to start.
We are going to move on. We're going to move on to our next presenter, which is David Reinhold. Now, I know some of you are going to be familiar with this problem that I'm going to bring up. So David is going to talk about virtual survey tool, and he wanted to join us live today, but as happens frequently, he got called to court.
No.
Yeah, I know. Duty called. But fortunately, David's prepared a video presentation for us. And if he gets out of court, he might be able to join us later to answer some questions.
Let's hope. Let's make that
Let's
call.
hope.
I'm gonna click play on this. David did an excellent job of helping us understand how to create virtual surveys. Again, ladies and gentlemen, all created from the star of our show, this ortho mosaic photo.
Reinhold. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I want to thank FARO Zone for allowing me this opportunity to display to you another unique, powerful tool within the FARO Zone product line called Virtual Surveyor. Now, this tool can be found both in the FARO Zone 2D underneath the Power Tools tab, and here in FARO Zone 3D underneath the Point Cloud tab. When you've completed your virtual survey, the data that's been collected in the coordinate data table now can produce two more deliverables. One being a PDF report that will list all your measurement data along with your case information. That PDF naturally can be shared with other individuals or placed into your report. Secondly, that data can be exported out or saved as an ASCII text file, which again will list all the measurement data and can be opened up in Excel or provided to other programs or individuals to work with that data if necessary. What's also very important to know is that that measurement data, since it's set up in an XY format or baseline offset, in the pre-planning, if you needed to go back out to the scene, knowing where you've developed an origin point or starting point of the virtual survey in the bearing, that you can measure off X and Y, baseline and offset, distances to recreate where physical evidence was. Again, that's all part of pre-planning and thinking ahead where you may need to use this data. To initiate the virtual survey mode, I'm going to left click on the icon. Again, it's found underneath the Point Clouds toolbar. And when I've left clicked, now attached to my cursor is a XY axis. And like a lot of the functions within FARO Zone, a little clue is telling you how to work through this process initially. I'm going to use my wheel mouse, and I'm going to zoom in and use my wheel mouse by pushing down as a third mouse button to pan more quickly to the area here of the center of the roadway. I'm just picking this for presentation purposes. I'm going to left click and place the origin. As you can see, it's point number 1, and I give it the bearing, almost as if you were taking a backside or a measurement to your reference measurement distance if you were utilizing like a total station or some other type of laser measuring device. And when I left click, immediately will appear is the coordinate data table. Now, if you have a second monitor, you can always leave this open, slide it out of the way, and I'm just going to slide it out of the way here so we have, again, a good view of our screen. Now, here's a properties box, like a lot of the FARO Zone features. It comes up to allow you to work with and adjust various items. The box here for new description is where you'll be adding the code or description of the piece of physical evidence that you're collecting. Okay, I'm going to start picking some physical features in our diagram so we can plot them using the virtual surveyor and get them entered into the coordinate data table. I already set up the code for over here. I'm calling this YL1 for yellow line 1, and I'm going to left click and come back down here, since it's a straight line, 2 points, and have that set up. Just to show you how it's done, I'm going to change the code up here, left click in the box for descriptor, and change this now to WL1 for white line 1, hit enter, and again pick points along the physical feature to document straight line, 2 points. For time restraints, I've completed plotting out the points. I'll just zoom in here so you can see real briefly here that each and every one of the points now have a point number, a descriptor, otherwise the various scuff marks, the final arrest of the vehicles, and some of the other points that are within the diagram. I'll pull up here real briefly here so we can see that here's our coordinate data table. Again, there's a little bit of a preview of all the points that were plotted out. And again, over here, everything was populated as I proceeded through for various curbs and stop bars and white lines, scuff marks logging again, the east and north, the elevation, and the descriptors. So now, if I wanted to, I can basically here hit update, so it basically updates everything on the diagram, and I can close out the coordinate data table. And also for right now that I want to stop collecting points. So where it says continue placing points, I'm going to say no. And here's a control box for the coordinate data table. And here where this gets a little bit cluttered up, if you want, you have the capabilities to say, since there is no elevational information, I can turn off the elevational information and now just have the point numbers. And again, if I wanted to, I could further complete some of the evidence or change the size and manipulate them. So here's my diagram with all the data points listed. Now, I can come back into the coordinate data table because here's my axis and say open up the coordinate data table, and here's where now I have a couple options. Now that I can tell it that I want to save the data points obtained and place it where I want, and here's a previous data file that I initially started, and I just listed it as data points and CSV. So I'm going to say left click save, be able to go ahead and override it. Here I can open up the report. I'll expand it out a little bit here. Again, selection of printers, diagram information, all can be changed per case. You can also have a logo and icon here. And when I want to save it or print it to a PDF, I left click on PDF. Here I will say, yes, print to PDF. Give it a name. Maybe data points, and then hit save. Give it a moment, and it saved it now into a PDF report that can be printed or forwarded to someone that you want. Closing these items back out and closing out. We've completed our first virtual survey, populating the coordinate data table with data points that we've selected. FARO Zone 3D allows you to have more than one virtual survey database set up within the diagram. Just as previously, I'll come up to the virtual survey mode button, and a control box will appear. Now I can continue to work on the previous data if I wanted to, or here I can start a whole new virtual survey. By left clicking, again, attached to my cursor is the XY axis. I can choose a position to place it, set its bearing, and the coordinate data table will appear. As I select points, the fields will be populated. I can save it as a ASCII text file to be opened up in Excel. I can print it out as a PDF as in the previous coordinate table. At any point in time, you can continue to select which virtual survey coordinate database you want to add new points to while working within the diagram. So, I sincerely thank you for your time, and I hope you've enjoyed this short walkthrough of the virtual survey and the 2 deliverables that I can bring you, a PDF report and an ASCII text file of all the data points that you can be utilized in a lot of other applications, or if necessary also to go out back to the field and locate physical evidence. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, David Reinhold. Man, I tell you, it is so rewarding to watch our customers take the software and take it to such a great level of detail. And I had to jump in here just for our next segment to let you know that this is kind of bonus deliverable day here on the webinar today. I said 1 animation, we're sending you 3 if you want them at the end of the webinar. David said he was going to give you the data survey. We're going to do that, but we'll also send you the PDF if you want to see the output of that report as well. So
Very nice.
right now we're already at 6 deliverables, and we should only be at 3.
I like to underpromise and overprovide.
I hope our customers want to see this stuff
I
because
think
it's
they
quite
do.
interesting.
I think they do. So one point that I wanted to bring about virtual survey, because I'm kind of just delving into this and learning all about it. You know, you don't just need a photo for virtual survey. You could use point cloud data, right? You can use other types of things. So if you had scanned the scene and you had point cloud data,
Right.
you can also use that to create your virtual survey, not just a photo.
Right.
So that to me is interesting fact, right? We like to be
It
varied.
is, but you know what people often want to know about that? Okay, great. So I can create a virtual survey from my point cloud data, either or. But what about those z-values? What if I got to record the uppy-downy part? That's the technical
Are
term,
you
isn't
reading
it?
over my shoulder?
Z-values, yeah. I saw John from
Jonathan,
Elgin
that's right.
asking the question. Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for joining us. The answer is yes, if you apply the appropriate snap. There is a new, in my opinion, improved snapping system in the FARO Zone software. And if you're using point cloud data, you just activate your point cloud snaps, then you bet. All you got to do is click on the point cloud. You'll see your snap circle appear to indicate that you're actually hovering over point cloud data. And yes, in that report, you'll get the z-values.
Done.
All right.
2 more questions for you, Dean.
Go ahead.
So Erin has had some issues in the past importing an ortho photo, and it's losing quality. So she wants to know, how do we fix that?
Is Erin a plant? Because I was hoping somebody would ask this question.
I think
Erin,
she's a real
thank
person.
you. Erin, thank you for being a real person and joining us here today. And the answer is yes, we've got an awesome solution for that. And it's actually kind of another sort of relatively new thing. Maybe if we have enough time, we'll get Derek White to expound on this. But it's called image tiling. Erin? Erin's the question?
Erin, yep.
Yeah. And what happens, Erin, is once you hit a certain threshold with a large image, and as I say, sometimes they can get pretty big. What the FARO software will now do, if you choose this option, is we'll actually kind of slice and dice the image so that we can bring in all of that high-res image information into those segments. Then we put all of those together again. So you're really getting the best of both worlds, right? You're getting your scene data from the drone photo, but now with the new image tiling in FARO Zone 3D, you can also bring in that quality that you need. What used to happen in the past, if I'd get too big, all of a sudden everything starts getting pixelated and a little cloudy.
We've all had that problem.
Garbage in, garbage out, right? If you can't see your data, right, Erin? You can't.
Right? Can't make your sketch.
That's it.
All right, so one last question. Shanoy wants to know if we have a step-by-step guide for how you scaled an image, since that was kind of the first step
Right.
in creating all these end deliverables. We
Right.
got to make sure it's the right size.
Got to make sure it's the right size. So the answer, Shanoy, is yes. You know, if you don't already have a free trial version of the FARO Zone software, I'd recommend you do that because we've got so many built-in tools in the software to help you learn these key fundamental things. I'm assuming it's key to you because you asked the question. We got a thing called FARO Assist. We've got built-in help guides right inside of the software. And of course, we've got the great FARO customer service department as well that are always here to help you. And I think we'll even share my contact info at the end of this, and you can always call me and I'll help you out. But yeah, get a free trial of the software, go through some of the help material, and you'll see how easy it is.
And just to throw this in there to remind them, you can get that free trial of the software, and we got a poll question coming up so that you can get that.
Right?
Then you can go get free training.
Yeah.
So we'll give you the software for 30 days for free, and then you can get trained on it for free to decide if it's good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
No brainer.
Yeah.
we're going to talk about something else.
Yeah, it's called the time distance report. You know, we've been kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit here, Alina, on a couple of the relatively newer functions. Virtual survey, so ably demonstrated by David Reinhold. I've talked about some other objects in our diagramming writ large. And right now we're awfully pleased to have Derek White join us from the old CAD Zone headquarters up there in Beaverton, Oregon. And Derek, are you with us, sir?
I sure am. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, thank you for joining us. So, Derek, we're here to talk a little bit about time distance. And since you are the guy that, you know, directed the programming team to get this together, I'm really happy that you could join us to kind of explain to the customers what this is all about and why people need it. Because I know that there can be just a little bit of confusion. Does that sound okay, Derek?
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
So let's get going then.
We'll always find the time to go the distance for our customers.
Good stuff. So here's what we've got. Just to remind you, we got an animation which is made up of individual animation path segments. So here's my first question, Mr. White. What can we do now that we have the time distance report that we could not do before?
Well, with the time distance tool, you can determine the speed, acceleration, time, and distance at any point along the animation path. The KEP manager, or the key events point manager, is an easy way to establish specific speeds at key points along the animation path that you've created. And with the time distance tool, we can display this data at any point between those KEPs, or key event points.
All right, you mentioned KEPs. Let's show the webinar attendees here what the KEP manager looks like. I just come over here to the properties panel, and what this does is this shows us speeds at, well, key event points in the sequence of the animation. So I see a speed here, Derek, and I can certainly see another speed up here by reviewing the KEP manager. What can we show and document using time distance that we can't get as far as information is concerned in the KEP manager?
Well, we can show and document critical data at, like I said earlier, at any point along the vehicle's path, and not just at each of the key event points. So all the data in between.
Okay, got it. So if, for example, I want to see how fast, in this example, a vehicle is moving at a specific location in time, sure, I got the KEP speeds, but if I want to find a position at a certain spot, like say here, I just click on the Power Tools tab, Time Distance Single, and then I click on the area that I'm interested in, and that pulls out a bunch of visual information that can be applied to our scene. You can see here we show the time on this segment, time to impact, acceleration, deceleration rates, velocity, and that kind of stuff. So how would users then take that data and employ it? What can they do with it, Derek?
This data can help us set more accurate speeds throughout the animation. In the example animation, we use the momentum tool to help establish speeds at impact and separation only.
You bring up a good point. As usual, you mentioned the momentum tool. We showed it a little earlier on, but let's take another look at it here for those that haven't seen it. Now, as we watch this, Derek, tell us what the momentum tool is designed to do.
The momentum tool is an analysis tool used by investigators to establish speeds. They'll use known information like impact location, drag factor, and impact angles. And the momentum tool will show us the speeds of the vehicle at impact and separation. We know the final rest speed is 0, and the momentum, and just so you know, the momentum tool will generate from that data a 13-page report.
And that's music to the ears of our public safety customers, because unless you got a report that you can show people, you're not really doing your job. So the fact that we can back that up, and not only do we give answers, but we give the mathematics behind all of the answers as well. So now that we know what we're looking at, let's look at it just one more time, just for interest's sake. We put our vectors out there, put in our known drag factors, vehicle weights, etc. And as you can see, it creates a pretty darn good looking animation. So my next question, Mr. White, is those momentum animations look great. They're automatically created. So why would we need to create an animation over and above the one that's already created for us?
Well, the animation tool is an analysis tool. So while it's very helpful in determining speeds and providing other information, the automatically created momentum animation doesn't allow the customization like intermediate vehicle positions and damage profiles.
Ah, another good point. Damage profiles. Let's talk about that for a minute. I just want to show quickly here how easy it is to create damage in FARO Zone 3D. So if I want to apply a damage profile at a specific location, I just click at the cap where I want the damage to be applied. Then I set the 6 zones of crush here, either manually as I'm doing here, or I can put specific numbers in the data fields. Then I just play the animation. Now I exaggerated that damage profile so you can see as it gets applied here, add engagement. So damage profiles are a very, very good way to, just add that extra level of realism. All right, Derek, I think I got it. Tell me how I'm doing here. Use the momentum tool for analysis, right? Then
Correct.
use that information to create the animations that can include customizations like damage or custom cameras. All right. Let's demonstrate now how to access the time distance information. So there's a couple of ways to do it, right? Let's do the most simple one here, right off the bat.
Sure, there's a couple of ways to get time distance information. Let's start by looking at the simplest way first. Simply select the animation path you're interested in and then click on the report button in the property panel.
Got it.
Okay, this will create a 6-page report which includes a screenshot of the path being analyzed, a distance over time graph, a velocity over time graph, and an acceleration over time graph. A time distance marker report using the KEPs as reference points will be displayed. And finally, an animation data report which shows vehicle velocities, acceleration rates, and vehicle position data every 1/10 of a second.
Every 1/10 of a second. Boy, that's a whole lot of information from just clicking one button. But we want our customers to know that there's a lot of information that they can get by customizing as well. All they have to do is go back to the Power Tools tab, click on Time Distance, but this time we're going to click Time Distance Auto. I'm going to select the animation path I'm interested in, and now I'm going to say, here's the data I want. Time, distance, percentage. Let's choose time. Let's choose half-second increments, and boom, look at that. Every half second along each animation path segment, we get that information that you saw earlier in the single event mode.
Right, and now you can see the information you need at every half second. You can even adjust the specific location of any of the individual time distance labels along the path, and these adjustments will be reflected in the report, which includes all the graphs you had before, but now the data is presented in the time increments you just specified.
Nice. Look at this. This is all valuable stuff, isn't it, Derek?
You know it.
All right, good stuff. So there you go. Alina, that is going to be what should be our 4th, but will actually be our 7th deliverable, a time distance report.
But who's counting?
As described by the lovely and talented Derek White.
Runner-up for best personality.
Yeah, there you go. Runner-up.
Runner-up.
You heard that,
First
right?
runner-up,
Derek?
though.
Yeah.
It matters. All right, so I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
We got our final poll question,
Okay.
and then we'll open it up and see if we have any more questions.
And I have some good news. David Reinhold got out of court. He's able to join us. So if anybody has any questions for David Reinhold, virtual survey or otherwise, I mean, the guy's been investigating collisions since dirt was invented, so I'm sure he could probably answer stuff over and above virtual survey as well.
Brian wants to know if we can export point cloud data in like a PDF or something that's a little bit easier for people to look at.
You know what? I'm going to defer to Derek White on this. Derek, I know that there's a lot of options, right? What do you want as the deliverable is a question that you need to answer, but how would you address that, Derek?
Well, certainly one deliverable would be that in the 3D image, you can take snapshots at any viewpoint and export those in your report, or print them or export them to a PDF. Also, with the total view tool that we showed earlier, you can create, move around through the entire point cloud, taking snapshots, and create a single movie describing the entire scene. And you can make also use the animation tool with a moving vehicle, for instance, like we also showed earlier, and drive through a scene.
That's
So-
such, Derek, I got to jump in. That's such a great point. The total view tool, I never mentioned it as I was creating the flyover, but as I was capturing those positional photographs, I can also save those images as well. So to address the question, yeah, you know, if you want to take a picture of your point cloud, you can do that for sure. Derek, just kind of hitchhiking on this question, what would be the advantage or disadvantage of taking a picture as opposed to trying to emulate point cloud data? You know what I mean? I know it's a clunky question, but I hope you understand.
Well, I mean, of course, the challenge is point cloud data can be just so large in file size, and not to mention transferring that data to somebody else or trying to transfer it across the internet, but also somebody else viewing this in another system. It's possible and it can be done, but there are a lot of easier ways to generate viewable reports.
Okay, good, thanks.
I think that answers Brian's question.
I hope so, Brian. I hope it answered your question. If not, clarify, throw us another one. We got a few minutes here for more questions.
And we inadvertently brought up another deliverable,
What?
the total view videos.
Total view video. Well, I counted that in my bonus deliverable.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Donald has a question. It's good. Is there a way to export that time, distance, animation report data as like a CSV file? Can we do that?
Derek?
Yes, we can. You can save it as a report or export the data.
Right. So,
I'll-
who's the questioner?
Donald.
Donald? You can export it as a Charlie Sierra Victor file, an Excel spreadsheet, or an ASCII file, or a TXT file. Is that right, Derek?
Yep.
Or am I getting
Absolutely.
that confused with virtual survey?
I think they will both do the same thing.
You.
Awesome.
Look at you.
Like he's done this before
Making
or
it
something.
easy to share. Yeah, it's almost like he's done it before for 30 years or so.
All right, we got one question from Robert, and it's a question/comment. This is definitely, I think I'm going to address this one towards Derek. So Robert's a Crash Zone user, clearly a longtime Crash Zone user, and he used a tool called the Easy Line tool. And he wants to know if there's any chance we're going to bring that back.
The Easy Line tool. Wow. Okay. So that was, thank you for bringing that up. That was maybe one of the very first really cool tools we developed back in the day. We haven't brought it back. We use the direct distance method of drawing where you can start a line, move in a direction and enter a distance and continue that along. We also have a much more extensive and powerful marker tool, which was part of the old Easy Lines tool, but this one stands outside of that and worth exploring. And I think once you explore the marker tool and direct distance, it's going to actually be much quicker and easier for you to perform those same functions.
Sounds good.
Boy, investigators sure are creatures of habit, aren't
Yeah,
they?
we sure are.
You know?
Side note, we are coming to our viewers today from our demo room,
Right.
demo studio
Yep,
in
yep.
FARO headquarters. So the demo studio is here to help you provide demos for hardware and software if you need them.
And, you know, I came from a really small company in Canada, You know, if we'd have a problem, I'd take 6 steps down the hallway and I'd be in the CEO's office. We'd make a decision and we're done. FARO is a whole lot bigger than that
bit.
organization. We are global. And I say that to say this. Not only can we deliver the information visually the way you want it via this great web studio that we're in today, but we've got talent all over the country, all over the world.
We sure do.
You know, you pick up that phone, say, hey, I got some questions. We're going to make sure that the very best person to answer those questions gets in touch with you.
We absolutely are. So we have a few minutes left. I'm going to go back through some questions.
Cool.
I have one from Eric, and he was interested in knowing, yeah, I'm interested in getting this free software download, but what does my computer require?
Oh,
What are my tech specs to make that work?
I'm so glad we brought Derek White in today.
Derek, you're on.
I'm actually not glad because I don't have that information in front of me, and definitely that information is absolutely available online and our support, and we can get that to you.
Maybe I could take a stab, Derek, at kind of generalizing it for you, Eric. For sure, independent NVIDIA graphics card, right, Derek?
Pardon, say that again?
I said for sure, an independent NVIDIA graphics card. Is that correct?
That's not the only graphics card you need, but that'll definitely do the job. Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So we do ask your computers to do some heavy lifting,
Some RAM.
especially if you're dealing with point cloud. So the more RAM, the better,
Yep.
right? But yeah, let's go to the pros. Let's ask the folks in tech support. They've got all the answers, and I'm not going to pretend to be smart. enough
I
to-
think a good thing to remember is if you play big, games on your computer, that's a gaming computer would
Sure.
be a good way to start thinking, that size. And we have a knowledge base with all that exact information
We sure do.
available.
Knowledge.faro.com.
Knowledge.faro.
Knowledge.faro.com.
Oh, you beat me too.
I win.
All right,
So-
so we'll go to knowledge.faro.com, select
FARO Zone.
FARO Zone, and there's how-to tabs, and there's download tabs, and
videos,
yeah.
and the tech specs that are required to run FARO Zone are actually on knowledge.faro.com. So I call knowledge.faro.com like the FARO library.
Yeah.
When you go into Knowledge, it's like walking into a library. When you click on your product, it's like directing you to the row that has all the books you need for that particular topic, and then you just pick the book you want off the shelf. And it's available 24/7 for you, so super handy tool to have when you can't get a hold of you or me.
Now, Lena,
Yeah.
I know you're the moderator, and I don't want to step on your toes, but I have a question. Can I ask a question of Dave Reinhold?
You sure can.
Mr. Reinhold, first of all, thank you for joining us here today. Your presentation was certainly enlightening for me, and I'm sure for our audience as well. But I had a question for you, because I know that you're fluent in 2D and 3D. David, is there any major difference in your mind when plotting virtual survey points in FARO Zone 2D as opposed to 3D?
Actually, the tool's there for both of the software versions. I think if you're working in 3D, have your snaps on so you know that you're actually locking on to the point cloud point that you're looking for.
Now, this is something that you've been using for a while. Obviously, you're fluent in the virtual survey. Could you maybe give us a real kind of boots-on-the-ground example of where a tool like that might benefit our customers, David?
Everything's in the pre-planning of your scene, and as previously mentioned, it allows you to go back out to that scene knowing a control point or a reference point. So if you needed to go out and maybe recreate that scene where certain physical evidence was located, and with that baseline and offset, you could develop your measurements and plot points back out if you needed to present to someone where certain gouge marks were within the intersection, or scuff marks or skid marks to utilize that. And most importantly, too, the XYZ data can be taken. It's an ASCII text file. You may be able to take it into other applications if you have a need for some other, maybe a simulation program potentially.
Outstanding. Well, David, I saw some weather this morning is heading to Maryland. You stay safe up there, okay, sir?
That's right.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And
Dean.
Alina, I think that's going to do it.
I think it is going to do it. So I want to thank, first and foremost, all of our presenters, our panel of experts that were here today to answer all of our customer questions. Thank you so much. And mostly thank you to our customers for spending some time with us. We certainly value your time, especially on a Friday and like a lunch hour.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. So thank you to everybody who has attended. And
on behalf of everybody at FARO Technologies, get in touch with us. We want to help make your life an easier place to be. We want to keep heartburn and frustration as close to zero at all times. Support at FARO.com, training at FARO.com, FARO.com. It's a good place to start.
it is.
You did a great job, Alina. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you for our next webinar.
Have a great day. Be safe.